watching News9's Deccan Vahini. I'm Prathibha Chandran, and today we are in conversation with the former Finance Minister of Kerala, Mr. Thomas Isaac. Mr. Isaac, I want to begin with news that has come in of the GDP recovery in India, expected 8.4% in the quarterly growth. Do you see this as a great pandemic recovery? Do you credit the center for the numbers that have come in, or do you think it could have been better?
Well, you have a third wave almost imminent, and that's going to make all these calculations irrelevant. Even otherwise, it was a very optimistic assessment that was being made. For the simple reason, there are certain imponderables, like, for example, the consumption level remains very, very low. Consumption is not picking up. The capital formation trend is still downward. Therefore, it is only the existing capacity that's being utilized. Really, investment is not picking up. Therefore, it was very improbable that the high expectations of a very sharp recovery would be realized. Now that it is very likely the global level itself, they are downgrading the growth prospects. I think India won't be immune to that.
Okay, but so you're saying this is something that every country is going to be facing, but as far as India's recovery or economic situation is concerned, would you say it's on track as far as the efforts that the government has been taking?
See, India's banking on a lot of foreign investment flowing into and activating the economy. Because our stimulus has been very muted, to tell the truth. So, in fact, even the big sale of public sector enterprises, through which they are trying to mobilize resources, it is almost macroeconomic sense, same as increase in the fiscal deficit. As long as the investors are borrowing money from the bank, and suppose they are cutting their expenditure and thing, then it's different. Otherwise, macroeconomic impact wise, it is same as say a deficit increasing. So India, having adopted to a kind of very conservative fiscal policy in terms of expenditure, stimulus expenditure, it was hoping that its record of adhering to the neoliberal norms of containing fiscal deficit and keeping the revenue deficit low would appease the finance capital. It will flow into the economy would pick up. But that needn't be realized. The global situation, it depends. There's a lot of uncertainties involved in that.
Okay, but when you say global factors, one of the strongest sentiments that we saw, especially during the pandemic, was certain aversion to China and Chinese products. Trade deficit with China, it's about $30 billion. And, this is April to September. And this is despite the Make in India programs that India has taken up. And also a lot of sentiments that we saw, against the Chinese products, especially during the pandemic. So what do you think happened?
Much celebration has been organized around the fact that our financial reserve money, foreign exchange reserve money has been going up at its record level and so on. But as you said, it is not the result of a trade surplus like in the case of China. The situation is, today's reports tell that the trade deficit will widen now because exports have been adversely affected. Therefore, this foreign exchange reserve record level can be very, very fleeting. See, if for some reason there is a withdrawal of short-term finance capital, we are going to be in very serious trouble. So the fact is that despite all this say noise made about Make in India, uh, even in the manufacturing, the standard trade has been, say, from traditional products. 30% is petroleum products that are being re-exported from India. And then gems and jewelry and traditional clothing and so on. Among the new products manufacturing, only some positive trend is there in the engineering goods to understand. So otherwise, India's trade basket has remained, say, the traditional mode. And therefore, which shows the failure of Make in India program. So in fact, government, I think, is at a loss what to do.
Okay, but when we talk of any kind of reforms, it also takes a political term. When we talk of reforms in the agriculture sector as well, the government had tried to push in the 3 farm laws, but a few months down the line, it has been retracted, and now it has been taken back. So do you think it's very difficult to bring in any kind of reforms, or do you think the reforms are being brought in perhaps in a brute way, and that's the reason why it does not gain any kind of acceptance?
I do not agree with the opinion that it was a necessary step. Okay. It was inevitable for improvement of agriculture. See, when India became independent, we were thinking in terms of land reforms to give a big push to agriculture. And later we adopted the Green Revolution strategy, which meant no land reform, but the farmers, the best among them would be promoted with Green Revolution inputs to become say, dynamic elements in the agriculture. Now we seems to be giving that also, the government directly intervening and developing a class of dynamic farmers. Instead, they're going to give assign this task to Indian corporates or foreign corporates, who would get the contract with the farmers, provide them with technology, inputs, and also market and so on. Now the farmers don't like it. They're being they're controlled by the corporate sector, because that is a historical experience of the farmer. Whenever a non-agricultural player like land moneylenders or traders, they begin to control, the farmers have been at the receiving end. This new approach is not going to move the farmers up the value chain. In fact, it's going to relegate to the bottom line, everything being dictated by corporates who control it. And therefore, the farmers are very right in rejecting it. And now politically, it is impossible for this government to bring them back. Though I understand that I've been looking at the business media, all of them are fairly upset that the government, they are more upset about the fact that this may give wrong signals to the other sectors. There are big ticket reforms in labor front, in financial sector, sale of public sector, privatization. So they are more worried more than agriculture or the implications of this in other sectors. For example, labor code has been put in the limbo. I don't think they are going to roll it out in India. The only element which seems to be pushed forward vigorously now is the privatization. So there's been total colossal failure of the goal of doubling the farmers' income.
But now that the demand for MSP has come in as well, the accusation is that becomes a safety net for farmers, that finally, the bill is footed by the taxpayers across the country. But, setting aside the farm laws, in Kerala, unseasonal rains have caused a lot of crop loss. It is pegged at 493, over 493 crores. What is the response that you're getting from the center? How has it been before this when you were in the ministry as well? the center and Kerala? Has the equation changed over time?
Well, I think politically, Kerala is a very, very inconvenient state for the central government. Now we are the only state which categorically reject the whole package of neoliberal reforms. We may have different opinion, but what I say, we are taking a very directly, diametrically opposite position policy-wise. Secondly, we are demanding that more autonomy in development. See, Kerala is a state, a region in India, which for whatever reason, historical reasons, the pressure from movements from below, took to a route of redistributive development. Say higher wages, land reforms, and then also public provisioning of education, healthcare, etc. Look, Kerala economy is growing at a much faster rate than national average for the last 3 decades. So much so, Kerala per capita income is 50% above the national average. How was it made possible? Because we made investment in human resources, which enabled people to go abroad and get job and send back money. So our investment has paid off. But it has an implication for finance that we cannot remove our revenue deficit. It will be there. But there is another point to it. So that is FRBM Bank doesn't accept that. There's a point of tension over that. Then our children, they're educated now. The job expectations are very high. That kind of jobs are not being created in Kerala. Now, to do that, we must attract investment. And to attract investment, our infrastructure has to be, big investment has to be made. Because we have been historically not investing sufficiently in infrastructure. There's a big infrastructure deficit. It has to be overcome. But with FRBM Bank and 50% of our loans being spent on human resources, how do you get money for this? And therefore, we have made SPVs, special purpose vehicles, which mobilize resources from outside and invest in infrastructure. Something like Development Financial Institution of Government of India. But India government has been after us with all the might in the hand, Enforcement Directorate, Income Tax Department, Controller and Auditor General, against, it's just to kill an financial institution. It's a malign it, so that it just cannot operate in the market. And this is something that is just not done. All right, then comes major investment, particularly in road, national highways, and rail development. Now, Kerala is the only state which is paying 25% of the land acquisition cost. Attitude of the center is not in the right federal spirit.
Okay.
The narrative of the central government doesn't accept the diversity of India. It's a vast country and aspirations of regions are very different, and we should be able to accommodate them. Kerala has chosen a path which is very different from the rest of India for the good of its own people. If you don't do that. But appreciate something that is going on and accommodate it in the national destiny.
Okay, but when you speak of cooperative federalism, do you see, for the southern states, it's a very raw deal all the time, whether it's the 15th Finance Commission, now with the GST as well, it was seen as something that's a big win for the states. But because of the, dispersing of the funds, do you see again a clash with the center and the states?
Yeah, if you take a southern state, there's much more not what I call this, a Dravidian stream in the culture and attitude and so on. And in many ways, in the economic performance, demographic performance, and so on, or attitude to say secularism, The southern states, but for generally have taken a different attitude. Only exception now being Karnataka. And now, as I told you earlier, the whole national narrative of BJP, this diversity is unacceptable. And that's the root of the problem. That's the root of the problem. They are all part of India, they're Indians, but at the same time, I'm a Malayali, other is a Tamilian. You have to accept this fact that is a multinational state of India. That's the nature of Indian nationalism. That has to be accepted. So, because of the common demographic transition characteristics, because of the fact that the reduction in poverty has been much higher in the southern state, very norms are fixed, so objectively fixed norms that population share, your social sector achievements are the criteria by which money is, funds are devoted, you get a raw deal. The kind of ludicrous level this policy positions in India. I'm going to speak about COVID times. I received information that on the eve of COVID, the state governments had 1.5 lakh crores of rupees as surplus in the treasury, unspent treasury, surplus, which was being invested in 14-day government of India securities. Now, COVID, I was suspecting that this will disappear because there is so much misery, so much demand. The unspent surplus in the treasury invested in government of India securities increased to 2.5 lakh crores of rupees. Now, here are people dying, hungry, sick, and here you're hoarding money. Why? Because there is a law saying the borrowed money cannot be spent on revenue expenditure. That is revenue deficit being zero. So you have internalized this fiscal neoliberalism so much. This misery of the people doesn't matter, but you won't spend. Kerala, I tell you, is the only state that never for one day had surplus in the treasury. And I'm very proud of that record.
Okay, but the Kerala model that was praised for the fight against COVID, and that was the time when you were spearheading the fight against COVID-19 as well. That was when the first wave happened. But by the second wave, it seemed like everything had changed. It seemed like there were certain faults with Kerala model, even when other parts of the country were improving. In Kerala, not just were the cases rising, the vaccination levels also came down low. So you were there when the first wave happened. What do you think went wrong when the second wave happened? Was there, was it because of a change in the complete government? You had all the ministers being changed. What was the reason for it?
Two things happened, which brought down people's vigilance and their participation in the COVID preventive measures. One is election was coming. So it's a big fight. And therefore, COVID protocols virtually brought down. Second is the opposition eyeing the election coming. They start agitations which really rejected COVID protocol. So that we reach the peak just after the election. But at the same time, we cannot clamp down now as we did 100 years back. But nevertheless, I would argue that Kerala model still holds. One, the percentage of population who have been affected by COVID, that would still be lowest in Kerala despite the spike. Now you have data, the zero surveillance data, which shows the percentage of population with antibodies, and Kerala is the lowest. So definitely the the kind of spread has been much lower. Thing is, I believe that it is much reported, better reported in Kerala.
Okay. But, when it came to dealing with coronavirus crisis, what we saw was that, when we talk of cooperative federalism, it seemed like during the corona crisis, it was a win for the center because initially the states wanted to float the tenders for the vaccines themselves. And once the center allowed it, it was not of much success. Finally, center had to intervene yet again and ensure that it was a nationwide, vaccination policy that was applied. So, do you see that as a setback to the states, or to cooperative federalism itself? That people now know that a stronger center is required, or what do you think went wrong?
In India, so far, since independence, the entire vaccination program has been given free by the union government, whether it be smallpox, TB, polio. So when it comes to COVID, central government is abdicating the policy. So we protested. The central government must bear the expense. But for us, the paramount importance is that our people get vaccinated so that the economy comes back to the normal. Therefore, we didn't know what was the central government's position. They were saying you have to buy, they will probably half, rest of the half you have to take, and so on. So what we did was, we said, okay, we will go ahead. While still wanting the central government to foot the entire bill, we are not going to make our people pay the price for the delinquency. And therefore, we went to float, maybe in fact floated on 10 days for getting the vaccine. Then because of Supreme Court intervened, central government changed the position very well. But central government have been dragging the feet. They have not been ramping up the production of vaccine in India, nor have they been importing sufficient vaccine. So the progress of vaccination has been low. So it's not low, slow. And it is very unlikely even at the end of the year, India, everybody is going to be vaccinated.
Okay.
Now you see the kind of precarious situation nation has landed because of this. Unless until everybody is vaccinated, nobody is safe. That's the lesson we learned from this new mutation of the virus. So the whole world is, even the rich fellows who hoarded up all the vaccines in their countries and wanted to give booster shots and so on, now they're closing up, huddling. So you need to have national action, rapid action. You need to have also global. I think the Indian government's good move, in fact, to demand that patent rights be waived for the vaccine. But no action has been taken on that. We should really see to that we give compulsory license, get our public sector vaccine manufacturing units. This is going to be with us for some time. Therefore, spend money, invest money in the public sector, expand their capacity, and accelerate the vaccine production in India itself.
Okay. But, when we talk of the lessons learned during the pandemic, I also want to ask you something on a little more personal note. It was, during the pandemic that Kerala went into elections and you decided to bow out of the election process. And despite, such a thumping victory for the Pinarayi Vijayan government, we had all the ministers being changed completely. Was that a decision that was, taken with all the party members and all the ministers there? If you can tell us a little more about, how that decision was taken and why that decision was taken.
I take my case here. I've been 20 years MLA and 10 years finance minister of Kerala. There must be some time I step aside and do something, a lot of, so that, so there has to be some time limit, a break. I think is very rational approach to take. And it was not something isolated individual person like me, but generally we took a decision, those who have been contesting for the 2 times continuously, step out and do organizational work and so on. So that's fine, but that doesn't mean that I will stop contributing to policy making or say in developmental activities and so on. I will be there, but I won't be the finance minister.
That's true, but is this a decision that is taken on an individual level, or is it guided by the ideology of the left? So was it a collective decision that is guided by ideology, or is it more of a personal choice?
It was a practical thing, not ideology and so on, but a decision made by our state leadership, state committee. And so it's a collective decision that is, including me. I was also part of that decision. So secondly, the people of Kerala accepted it. That's the thing. Suppose we are discussing before the election, you could have made an argument, the impact on election and so on. But people of Kerala overwhelmingly voted for they also felt it's
for the
good.
Government, including the ministers.
It's good. Already there was a big platform in Kerala where they said, no, government must change every 5 years. Yeah, some progressive people, etc., writers and so on. Nobody should be in power continuously. I think people are also appreciate the change of guard in the CPM ministry.
But
so
why
it is
does
accepted by people.
Okay, but why does it not apply to the chief minister?
Not continuously. He has been only second time continuously. No?
Okay. So, there's a criticism that the left and even the Congress party, all the opposition parties, in fact, have against Prime Minister Modi, that it's a very autocratic style of functioning in the country that we are seeing. Do you see a similar allegation being leveled also on Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan?
Allegations can be raised by critics. So, one, is there any comparison between the policies of Modi and our government? Regarding the style, in fact, it's not the government controlling the party controlling the government. Everybody has their ways of speaking and so on. So I think it has no basis whatsoever.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so if we talk about electoral politics and the BJP's attempts, a little while earlier you said that Kerala was a convenient state for the BJP. Do you see a very consistent effort from Mr. Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Modi, or even from the Home Minister Amit Shah as well? It seems like a very personal battle when whether it is mentions of Kerala time and again, or when it comes to elections in Kerala as well. It's a very personal involvement from the top BJP leaders. Why do you think that is? And why do you think, despite all of these efforts, they don't seem to cut eyes with the people of Kerala?
BJP cannot come to terms that in a major state they don't have even a single MLA. That is a big affront to them. And that too in a state, if you take the number of shakas of RSS to population, Kerala has the highest. So the presence has been very long. But they have not been able to make inroad even to the majority community, let alone the minority community. Because Kerala's Hindu community is very secular. That was the nature of our Renaissance. The biggest ideal put forward by our Renaissance movement was, it doesn't matter which religion you belong to as long as you're a good person. That's a dictum on which Kerala has been coming around. Therefore, for some reason, they worked out, even though it's one state, they won. I think they're not able to come to terms with that. Therefore,
so you say it's an ego battle?
Pardon?
It's more of an ego battle than electoral success.
Yeah. So therefore, kind of ridiculous campaigns that are going on. The latest has been Halal. See, for whatever reasons, the majority of the hoteliers in Kerala and hotels in Kerala is the highest incidence in India from the Muslim community. So they want to say halal food is unhygienic food. They split into that and so on as a ritual, which are all stupid. Now, Amit Shah has taken out the mantle of central cooperative department. But now the verdict has been upheld, Gujarat verdict has been upheld by the Supreme Court. He cannot directly intervene too much. But therefore, now they're taking the route of RBI.
With Amit Shah taking over as the Ministry of Cooperation, how has the impact been? Has it made matters worse, or do you think it's helping out with the?
See, why do you want to have a ministry? When the Supreme Court has said the cooperatives are a state subject, it will be controlled by the registrars in the state. Then the argument is there is some multi-state cooperatives which act in more than one state. But it's such a small proportion now. Does it require a union ministry? But a union ministry that will be Amit Shah on that. So initially, I think before Supreme Court judgment came, they were thinking of some line of action of entering into particularly southern states, the cooperatives. Now that is not possible. There are other attempts being made, promotion of multi-state cooperatives, parallel to state cooperatives. It doesn't require the permission of the state government, they can form it. A lot of Nidhi companies are being formed in Kerala. And there are, so something is up.
Okay. So, despite, what do you mean something is up? I mean, do you?
There must have some game plan here. Otherwise, see, normally that minister should have been agriculture minister because cooperatives are involved with agriculture. What has home ministry to do with agriculture? There is no synergy involved in putting same minister in both. There must be some game plan.
Okay, what do you suspect? Would you like to elaborate on that?
I think they're going to promote the multi-state cooperatives, parallel to state cooperatives, and we are going to have a major point of friction between the state and center on cooperative sector.
Okay. All right. Mr. Thomas, as we come to the end of this interview, there are two things I want to ask you. One is, as far as Kerala is concerned, would you say that, we have 5 years more and much more to go? Or do you think BJP has even a slight chance?
I have been studying this. Your CSDS surveys which give caste-wise political affinities, which shows Kerala's left limitation was that its support base from the minorities were very low. We don't get more than 25 to 29% of the votes from the minorities. But the last election, the indication side has increased to 39%. That's a big thing. We are making a big breakthrough there. Second, our support base has been agriculture workers, rural workers, and unlike some other states where middle class are leading, here it is very different. So there's a growing middle class in Kerala. I would say about 30% has become the new middle class. But our investment in education, infrastructure, appeal to them, and support for the middle class have increased. So left support base in Kerala is going to expand. Now, being out of power in second term for UDF is something unthinkable. Therefore, they are in real deep trouble. A lot of decisions are coming up. The leadership has been changed. There is protest against that. And a lot of people are leaving disillusionment. But they are not moving to BJP. They are not moving to BJP. Okay. They are moving to the left. And BJP has lost its luster. Its vote share has, after steadily improving election to election from early 2000, it is now just peaked and plateaued.
No, but
In
there are
fact,
a few
declined in the
issues.
last election. So there's no
There are
way.
issues like
Logically, you cannot think anything other than left being coming back to power on a third time.
All right. So, so for you personally, what next? Are you, are you enjoying your time away from, the ministry, the finance ministry, and what next? Can people of Kerala expect?
I am a party leader, not just an academic. So I'm very busy with the party organizational work and also party education. And, being 20 years in electoral work and 5 years in people's planning, a lot of areas to write. so a new book of mine is coming out from Leftward.
Yes, sir.
I'm also pretty busy doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas Isaac, for speaking to us. It was such a delight speaking to you. Thank you so much.